This video is a part 2. It's the follow on from this one where I made the loop with the stripes on it as a fastening to a friendship bracelet, and the bracelet I'm going to make is going to be a cross between that one and this one, but slightly different from both, where I've done the alternating chevron pattern on it. So I'm going to put this on the board and get started. Right, the first row of the bracelet was started on the end of the last video, which is where I did the purple going down and meeting in the centre and knotting. So now I'm going to do the second row. And on this bracelet there are only 2 different ways of doing it. So the first row goes straight down and the second row is slightly different. So what you want to do is start off with a forward knot and then a backward knot, and then you take the one that you've just knotted onto and then you knot this onto your next string. So again, it's a forward knot and then a backward knot, and then you take the one that you've knotted onto and go on to your next one, and again forward and then backward, and you're going to be repeating this all the way down to the centre. So you go to your next colour and you go forward knot and then backward knot, and then pick up your next colour, which should be black if I can find it. Or is it? No, it's yellow, isn't it? Oops, sorry, it's yellow. So forward and then backward, and then your next colour, which this time is black, and then forward and backward. Forward, backward. And take your last one and do it again, forward and backward, and then you'll leave this one because this isn't going to be tied up again until you've finished this row. So this time you do just a mirror of what you did on the other side. So you'll take your first one and then you'll go backward and then forward, and then you'll take this one which you knotted onto and backward, then forward, then drop this one and take your next colour and do backward and then forward. Backward and then forward. Backward and forward. Backward and then forward. Backward and then forward. Backward backward and forward. Backward and forward. And then your centre one, you go over it again, it's backward and forward. And then you'll take your centre ones, which you'll notice are the same colour that was in the centre on the previous row, and then just knot those ones together. And then for your next row, you go the same way as you went on the previous video, which was basically just forward knots down this side and backward knots down this side. So each time you're just going forward, forward, and then with the same one that you just knotted, you're going forward and forward, and then still keeping hold of that one. For each one you're going to be using this black string or whatever colour you've used, and going forward, 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 forward and forward. They do like to jump around the board a bit. Forward and forward. Forward and forward. Forward, forward. Forward and forward. And forward, forward. And then your last one, your purple, which this time is going to move across. Again, forward and forward. So now you take your other side, and these are all going to be backward, and you're going to be moving this black string into the centre. So this one's going to be done in backward knots over all the other ones. So backward, 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 and backward again, and backward, 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 backward. And then you take the two in the centre, which for this one are black, and then just knot these two together. Like I said before, I do them forward knots in the centre, but that's just habit. So now if you can see, the colour pattern is starting to take shape. So I'm going to do a few more, but I'm going to see if I can speed that up a bit, because you don't want to hear me going over and over this again. It's just the same pattern over and over, and then show you when the pattern started to show up a bit more. So you can see the pattern starting to take shape there. I'm going to do the rest off camera, because I think you've got the idea now that it's just straight down, and then you're doing your alternating ones there to bring that row outwards. So I'll show it at the end, and then show you a few ways of fastening them off. Once you've finished the rows of the bracelet, the pattern will end up looking like this. This is 53 rows, which makes a bracelet that will fit around a 6-inch wrist. If you want something longer, you can do more rows to carry on down there, but you will need to remember to add more length to your strings when you're starting out. It's about a foot per inch of your wrist, so if you go on that, then you're going to get it about right. So at the end, you can either do something like these to tie them on through these loops, or you could put a button on. There's other ways, but for now those are the main two that I use. For this one I'm going to put a button on. As you can see, it's got 4 holes in it there. So if you even out each side into 2 sections, which for this one would be 6 in each, and then you thread 6 through each of those holes and then knot them, as I've done with this one. You see there's 2 knots, and I dab a little bit of glue on the end. So I'm going to do that off camera because it's a bit fiddly and it takes a while, so you might have to have a bit of patience if you choose to put a button on, and then when it's finished I'll show what the end bracelet looks like. And once you put the button on, this is what the bracelet will look like. Do remember before you put it on to check that the button will fit through the loop that you've made, and once it's fastened you end up with the bracelet that looks like that. Thank you for watching.